Hello, welcome to the People Profit Podcast, the show where we flip the script on traditional business thinking and prove that when you put people first, profits follow. I'm Sandra Coker, your guide on this journey to more engaged teams, loyal customers, and a healthier bottom line. These episodes are brought to you by Human Power Solutions, helping organizations unlock the human potential that powers performance. Whether you're a leader, an HR pro, or a curious change maker, buckle up. We're diving into fresh stories, real-world strategies, and a few laughs along the way. Ready to turn your workplace into a profit-powered people machine? Let's get started. Welcome to the People Profit Podcast, where we explore leadership strategies that put people at the heart of business success. I'm Sandra Coker, CEO of Human Power Solution and author of the best-selling book called People Profit. And today we're tackling the human side of mergers and acquisitions, how to lead teams through the chaos of change without losing trust, morale, and momentum. Our guest today is Jennifer Fondrevay. She's the founder and CEO of Day1 Ready, a consultancy that guides Fortune 500 executives, owners, and leaders through high-stakes transitions. As a former C-suite marketing executive who navigated 3 multi-billion-dollar acquisitions firsthand, Jennifer is known as the M&A whisperer for her ability to address the people challenges that derail deals. She's a sought-after speaker, consultant, and expert on thriving through uncertainty, helping organizations turn transitional pain into long-term strength. Jennifer, welcome. I'm excited to dive into how leaders can humanize this very difficult process.
Thank you. And thank you for being interested in the topic, Sandra. It's not everyone who wants to foray into the world of acquisitions.
Well, I think, you and I work in the same space, and there's so much consolidation going on right now. And there's so many people like gobbling up different companies, and it's what people are dealing with right now.
We're seeing industries being reshaped.
Yes. So for you listeners out there today, if Jennifer's insights equipped you for your next big change, please make sure you like, follow, share, and subscribe to the podcast. Your support helps to bring these important conversations to more leaders. So let's get to it. All right. So Jennifer, your journey as a C-suite executive through 3 massive acquisitions gave you frontline insight to the M&A human toll. So can you talk a little bit about your journey and what are some of those pivotal moments that those experience, really showed you in these transitions?
How long does this show run, Sandra? It's a long journey, but I'll keep it brief and short. And I always joke that I'm an accidental entrepreneur consultant because first 15 years of my career were advertising and communications, and then the last 10 were marketing. And it was in those last 10 years as a marketing executive that I experienced those multi-billion-dollar merger and acquisition deals. And I've been on all sides of the equation. So the first one was when Navtech, a company where I was head of B2B marketing, was acquired by Nokia. For anyone who knows Nokia, things didn't necessarily play out well. But I won't pull you into the tawdry details of it. It's really my origin story. When you say share your journey, that's the pivotal one, because in experiencing that acquisition, it was a level of change and transformation that I'd never experienced before. Navtech was a digital map maker, and we were on a high growth trajectory. So having that change as a result of being acquired by Nokia, who was B2C while we were B2B, really kind of opened my eyes to how leaders need to be through change and transformation that I wasn't prepared for previously. And subsequent to that, went through 2 more acquisition experiences on all sides. I've been on all sides of the deal equation. And so that's really what formed my pivot into becoming a consultant for leaders and executives going through a merger and acquisition.
I feel like people, when you're leading the merger and acquisition, you've got this mandate, right? And I feel like the people that are in it, they don't, their emotional needs and their cultural realities really aren't considered a lot of times. Why do you think that is? And is that the case? Just my assumption.
I think they are considered. The issue is that they become secondary to just getting the deal done, to getting the transaction. Okay. Focus is on that. Yep. And there is I would say misguided belief. We'll just get to that later. We'll deal with it once the deal is done. And you and I both know hope is not a strategy. You can't hope that things will just work themselves through. And what I experienced and witnessed through my deal experiences was that if you're not defining what's our people strategy, whether it's a culture assessment, leadership alignment, organizational development, if you aren't looking at those factors during that deal due diligence and having a handle on what's going to be required and what you'll need to put into place and implement, trying to do that once the deal is done, you're playing catch-up mode. And a lot of, and Sandra, I'm sure you've experienced this as well, a lot of the challenges then almost hit within the first 100 days, right? People lose sight of what's important. They don't know what their value is. You can lose talent, your productivity drops, morale can drop, and that crucial time period, those first 100 days, can be more chaotic than necessary.
Yeah, I totally agree. And you see it all the time. Like that, it's like, let's get the numbers, let's get everything signed. And then, now we have to merge these cultures. Whereas if they did that work up front, they could see if it's actually going to work or not. So I think that's pretty eye-opening for people listening or thinking about going through this. So when you founded Day1 Ready, you founded that organization to advise on the people side of the deals. So how do you help these leaders and these people that are doing these transactions prioritize the humanity of the deal to avoid these pitfalls that cause 70 to 90% of the M&As to underperform? It's huge, huge numbers.
And it's interesting. It's why I made the joke up front. It was accidental. I was actually a chief marketing officer. I was going to continue to be one. But while I was interviewing CEOs for my book, Now What? A Survivor's Guide for Thriving Through Mergers and Acquisitions. It's really a catchy title. But it was while I was interviewing CEOs, they would consistently say, this is critically important material that you're covering in this book, right? I talk about the stages of grief, the personas that may emerge when people are afraid and uncertain of their future. And so for me, it was really the impetus from so many CEOs saying, you've got to do more than just write this book. You've got to build a consultancy around it. And key to my consulting is what CEOs repeatedly said. It's straightforward and looks at the merger and acquisition deal through the lens of someone who's gone through it on all sides. So I can speak, unlike, and I don't want to, tarnish consultants, but, I was on the receiving end of consultants during my corporate days, where I really felt like they didn't understand what it felt like to lead people through the emotional aspect of change and transformation. And so I lean into that intentionally, whether it's articulating the fact that you can go through stages of grief. It's an identity loss. What I talk about in my book and in my workshops is you have an organization that can grieve the loss of the future that won't be. And that I see happen routinely. So I talk plainly and openly and practically about what really happens to people, what drives those emotions, and how as a leader you can help not just yourself, but help your team and organization navigate through those obstacles so that you can actually achieve the success, the promise of the deal that was intended to be achieved. Routinely, I think it won't be achieved unless as a leader you you take on that responsibility to help your people
Yeah.
through that very chaotic time.
So your book, you interviewed over 60 M&A survivors, right? The executives, practitioners, employees. And as you were talking about, you emphasized the emotional, psychological toll of the M&A, framing as a disruptive life event, right? Akin to grief, relocation, all that kind of thing. Could you talk about the three interconnected themes that address the human side of the business transitions?
Well, to narrow it down to three would be hard.
Yeah.
The I would say there's aspects of the deals that I see, both from what I experienced, but that what I routinely saw. And the interconnectedness is really around those emotions that you aren't used to experiencing in business, right? As a leader, you're focused on growth and driving that growth. But when a merger and acquisition occurs, the metrics for success change. So what got you to this point won't necessarily be the successful formula for the future. Right. And so recognizing that aspect of it and being able to lead your people effectively through it is a different leadership toolkit. It's not the same as when you've been on that high growth trajectory. And so I'd say first and foremost, that's the key sign up front that routinely when I work with leadership teams is the epiphany. It's a different leadership toolkit that you've got to pull from, and showing compassion and being able to have empathy for what your people are going through and have them open up to you so that you can move forward together. Those just aren't the emotions that people are used to not only having at work, but actually leaning into.
Yeah. And I want to talk a little bit about another key that I saw in the book was thriving amid uncertainty. You talk about transitions aren't just about survival. They're opportunities for growth, right? So you shift the narrative, right? From victimhood to agency, right? So you're encouraging the readers to align personal goals with the new corporate vision. How do you get people to turn it around like that?
Well, to me, the key answer to that is focus on what you can control. Frankly, that's advice that I use not just for mergers and acquisitions, but I talk a lot now to leadership in general. And when I'm asked, like, what's the one thing that you recommend? Focus on what you can control. There is a lot of noise during a merger or an acquisition. It's just inevitable, right? Because it's an untested strategy. Your metrics are changing. They can change more than once as you fine tune the strategy. And as a result, the noise around you can be distracting and can keep your teams, can distract them from keeping their eye on the ball. So there's three aspects of focusing on what you can control that I take people through, whether it's a workshop or just working with teams in general. And that is your talent, your effort, and your attitude. Focusing on your talent. What is it? What are the key things that you bring? What is the value that you deliver? It's not attached to the title that you used to have or the role you used to play, but it's truly the talent that you bring. And one of the stories that I love that's in my book was one leader in particular who led a customer marketing team, and they were being acquired. And their customer marketing team had been focused on automotive, but they were acquired by a telecommunications company. And he said to the team, listen, I don't know if they're going to value our take on automotive. I think they will. I think that's part of what drove them to acquire us, because they wanted to have that visibility. But what I'm encouraging each of you, he said to his team, was don't obsess about the title you have, but showcase your ability to learn things quickly and simplify it down to its core elements of importance for executives. Because that's what your skill set is. It's not the title. It's the skills that you've learned and the knowledge and expertise you bring to that. And his team managed to stay intact. Even though there was restructuring, his team stayed intact. And as a result of their ability to demonstrate what their skills were quickly. And it turned out that automotive was important, but what helped them navigate all of that was really what they focused on, which was showing their skills and talents. So talent first and foremost, and then secondly, effort and attitude. And the effort piece of it, I focus on probably more than anything else, because where you put your effort, both at work and in life, your energy is finite. And so I do an exercise to help people figure out where do they put their effort, and then also how to keep a positive attitude. So we don't have enough time for all of that, but to me, it's those three key pieces that help you to really keep focused on what you can control.
I love it. So I'm not a women rah kind of person, but I do want to, and most people that know me know that I value both men and women, and most of my mentors are men, and I believe in lifting women up, right? But you talk about women's secret weapon in leadership, right? You highlight how women often excel in M&A by leveraging empathy, intuition, and collaboration, right? So talk a little bit about why that, why that's so important, and why that human-centric approach is the competitive advantage in successful M&A.
And what's interesting, Sandra, about that, so that was a Forbes article that I wrote that I was surprised. It went viral, and it's similar to you. For me, it wasn't about, women being better at something. It was for women to understand this is a competitive advantage that you have. Lean into these skills. And so the superpowers that I identified, it's going to sound common sense to you, but whether it's a merger and acquisition, or frankly, any change or transformation, women's intuition to anticipate challenges down the road. It's almost as though, I interviewed even men for this article. They would say, women just have this ability to go, okay, this is going to be a problem down the road, and to force you to address it up front. He said, and it's made our deal teams much stronger as a result. I always feel like there's an adult in the room. Women's ability to simplify communication so that everyone understands. I'm sure you've been in those meetings where people just present slide after slide after slide, and no one understands it. But no one's got the courage to step forward and say, well, wait a minute, I'm sorry, did I understand this correctly? And so again, both women and men, acknowledge the ability to simplify that communication so that more people understand helps your organization to move forward. And the human-centric piece of it is women's ability to see the change, the human side of things, and what could be just standard operating procedure, how to change this so it's more humanistic. And again, in that case, there's a story that I tell in the article of a woman. She was the head of mergers and acquisitions for a medium-sized business, and they were on an acquisition spree. But what she realized was, in this time period, there was a 48-hour period where the operations team was just being worked nonstop. They had demands for things they had to close down, then things that they had to turn on, systems that needed to be integrated, processes that needed to be integrated. And they had done this a number of times. And she said, we're wiping out these teams. Why? So she went back and analyzed the steps in the process and determined that there were things that could be done in phases, that it didn't have to be all done in this intense 48-hour period of time. So she went to her boss and asked, why is it done this way? And he said, I don't know. It's just how we've always done it. And she recommended, let's separate these. These things will be critical in phase 1. These will be critical in phase 2. And these are things that can be pushed to a later phase. They applied it, and it made a world of difference. And that became their new standard operating procedure. And so I share that story because she challenged what was just standard operating procedure to say, how can we be more humanistic about this process?
That's great. That's great. And I think it's so important that people, that regardless of what level you are, where you are, that you're able to, hey, I want to question this, and having a leader that says, I don't really know. Let's try something new. I think that's really important.
Well, and
So beyond
the one thing I would just add, because I love that in her looking at it, it wasn't just immediately, how will this make us financially more efficient? It
Right.
was, how do we make this more humane for people? And the benefit was the finances improved, right? They got the return faster, the delivery faster, and people were able to engage. So the finances followed, but it started first with, how do we make this more humanistic?
And that retention, I mean, that, and that, not only the profits and all of that, but also retaining your talent. So they, not burning out your talent. That is a
right
cost saver for sure.
Running a business is hard. Developing your people shouldn't be. At Human Power Solutions, we act as your outsourced chief learning officer, designing custom learning and development experiences that actually move the needle. No fluff? No cookie cutter workshops, just results. Whether your people need better communication, stronger leadership, or less burnout, we provide strategic solutions that align with your goals and keep your team moving forward. Visit hpowersolutions.com and unlock your team's full potential without disrupting operations.
Beyond M&A, your work applies, your consulting work and all the work that you do, it really applies to any major transition. Like right now, most of our companies are seeing AI integrations like crazy. Markets are shifting, right? How do leaders apply your principles to maintain morale and drive performance when change really right now feels like it's coming at you like a bullet train, and it's overwhelming?
I've found that the companies that are embracing AI, but recognizing they need to train their people, they need to enable and empower their people to use AI, because it's similar to the comment that the discussion earlier, right? You can't assume that everyone's going to embrace this equally. It's a change. Right. It's a new form of change, bringing in AI. And so there will be those people who will be early adopters, love it. Right. They're all about it and are playing with it. Then there will be people who resist it, who are on the fence trying to see how it plays out. And then there are people who are completely disengaged, who think this is just going to go away. And frankly, they're in denial, right? I mean, So it's another form of change. So I look at it through the same lens. Obviously, people who are excited by it, running with it, fine. But that core middle section, your fence sitters, how do you enable them to embrace the change? And I know, Sandra, that's a lot of the work that you do is helping to empower and enable leaders to see this as a tool that can help support them and help them do their job better. But in the conversations I have with senior leaders, you cannot assume that everyone's equally excited, and you need to be able to look at it through that lens.
I think what we
have that training there for them.
Yeah, what we found is when this first launched, we were doing the very surface level, how to prompt and all of that. We've quickly evolved to, let's dig into your job and how are we going to help you make these redundant tasks easier. So I think those companies that are coming and they're looking and saying, we want to really help our people be more productive so they can, spend time on higher and better uses. It's very interesting, the conversations I'm sure you're having with clients around this huge change.
You highlight a key thing, right? It's the core of this discussion, which is you can say, hey, this is a great tool, really excited about it externally. But if you aren't empowering your people and helping to train them, you can't hope that they're just going to embrace it on their own. They need that level of guidance, like what you're providing, what I do as well in the M&A work that I do.
So I recorded a podcast this week talking about chaos, self-leadership and chaos. And we were talking about how it was a really cool conversation. I want to get your take on that. How do leaders prepare to manage their own uncertainties? in order to help strengthen that organizational culture and retention. I think what I'm seeing a lot of is there's leaders now that, because change is coming at them so fast and they are very uncertain, like inside themselves, they're trying to figure out, where do I fit and where's my confidence, and how do you help those individuals kind of get themselves ready for all of this?
Well, one of the applications that I have, and this I've done in keynotes and workshops when I'm just working with executive teams, and you probably already have one, but I highly encourage them to have their own board of advisors.
Yeah,
a group of people, not just mentors, but people. And I talk about the different profiles you should have, right? The creative type, the practical type, the networker, the future version of you, right? The who you want to be 5 years from now. But having that board of advisors who you can tap into, that will help you, because we've all had it happen, right? When you are working and you are heads down, you can fall into almost a ritual rote in terms of how you do the job and how you approach it. And having that board of advisors to help you pull your head back and look at it, whether it's a problem you need to solve, whether it's, am I still at the right company? How do I need to think about my future? Having that board of advisors to help you think that through. And actually they can help you either, whether it's pivoting internally within your company to just reframe it and look at it differently, or if it's time for you to look externally and find a company that values what you do. To me, that is often almost impossible to do on your own without having that perspective of someone who either is well networked and knows what's happening from an industry trend standpoint, is creative and can help you think more creatively about it. That board of advisors can be instrumental in helping you. So
it brings me, I had a conversation recently with a really good friend of mine. And he was talking about the changes going on in his company, and they've brought some people in, and the whole culture is about to change. Everything is about to change. They've gone from being very community centric to they're going to be very numbers oriented. And he called me and said, can we meet for lunch and can we talk about this? Because I'm going to have a really big goal, and as we were talking, I looked at him and I said, you got to look inside and ask yourself, yes, you're loyal to this company. Are they going to be loyal back to you? And is the new role that you're going to take on going to fill your cup in a way that, right? And he said to me, he goes, I'm not sure. He's in his 50s. He's like, I'm not sure if I'm ready to if I want to look for something else. What kind of advice do you give to someone like that's going through that kind of a change? Everything is going to change. I mean, I've been in there. I can see it. How do you help that person? Like, my advice to him was, you can control what you can control. So let's talk about how you're going to get there, right? We did have that conversation, but what kind of advice do you give someone that isn't able to, financially able to move roles, due to family obligations and all of those kinds of things, and that are going through those kinds of changes? What would you say to that kind of a person?
Well, I think, and it goes back to my talent, effort, and attitude, right? Because oftentimes, particularly if we've just been laser focused on doing a certain thing, often what I've seen happen is when you get really clear about what is it that's, as you said, right, that fills your cup, sparks joy, that really excites you, and how do you create more of those opportunities in the line of work that you have? Right. And I say that particularly because in mergers and acquisitions, right, oftentimes it can be an opportunity for you to change roles completely. Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of opportunity in the change. And, we keep using the word chaos, but in just all the changes that are happening, William Bridges called it the neutral zone, right? When you're letting go of the old way of doing things and working towards that new beginning, that middle section, that gray area neutral zone can be your opportunity. So exactly as you suggested, what are the things that spark joy? What are the talents that you could do nonstop? where
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
could do it for hours and not come up. How do you create more of those opportunities in your role? And what's fascinating is more often than not, when I've given that advice and I've said, and talk to your boss about that, the fact that that is
Yeah.
you are really good at and want to do more of. And you'd be surprised at how often a boss says, I had no idea. Absolutely. I think that's great. Let's find those opportunities for you. It can be a way to spark that inspiration for you within the company that you have.
I love that. That's awesome. It's great advice. I think there's a lot of people in that demographic that are going through all these mergers and acquisitions that feel like they're stuck. And it's, who do you need to become to get to where you need to be, in the space that you're at.
Sandra, the other thing that I think is wonderful about the gentleman that approached you is you need to be the captain of your own ship. I mean, when change and transformation are happening, the reality is, even if you've had an amazing boss, he or she is focused on their own role within the change and transformation. You need to be steering your own path forward, right? Not assuming or waiting for someone to tell you what to do. So proactively, I love the fact that he proactively said to you, this is what I got to do. These are the numbers I've got to hit. How do I do that? How do I need to be thinking about it?
Yeah.
That's a great and really important next step, because it recognizes this is something in my control and I've got to be driving the agenda.
Yeah. Yeah. So for leaders listening, and leaders that are going through change or about to make a change, whether it's a merger acquisition, whether it's just a change in the, hiring somebody new to take over whatever, what's one immediate step they could take to humanize the next change initiative? What's one thing that you can do?
This is going to sound simplistic, but I've seen the power it can have. The first step is to show respect. Have respect for the other side. Have respect for the people who are doing the work or now on the receiving end of this. The importance of respect, because unfortunately what I'd have to say is too often, and I experienced it myself in my own M&A deals, there's a bit of arrogance that can happen, right? We're acquiring you, we're taking over, these are our rules. Or even the company who's been acquired, right? This is the way we've always done it. Why are you telling us to do it differently? Didn't you value us for what we brought? And so there can be that us versus them dynamic that happens and can really undermine the success, not just of a merger and acquisition, but of the change initiative. But when you role model respect, and it has to start from the top, when you role model respect for the other side, you acknowledge the value that you both bring to this partnership, and you acknowledge where you're strong and where they're strong, right? Then that also prompts the initiative to co-create new best practices more easily, as opposed to, no, this is the way we've always done it and we're going to keep doing it this way. And so for me, it really comes down to respect, showing respect for the other company, if you're going through a merger and acquisition, and for the people who are doing the work.
Right. Love it. Love it. So I didn't warn you about this, but here we go. I have a little rapid fire.
So many different directions. So bring it on.
I love it. I think these conversations could go on and on, but I'm hoping our listeners are getting just little nuggets of here and there. And to our younger leaders, our leaders who are just up and coming, these are just things that happen in your career. So, so be listening for that. But I do a little rapid fire segment. I don't know if you've listened to our other episodes, but I have 5 questions. Don't think about the answers too heavily. Just quick answers, but they're kind of fun, and they're just love to hear your thoughts. You ready? You good?
Okay.
All right. What's one M&A myth leaders must bust?
Never say nothing's going to change.
Ooh,
Wipe
love
that from your vocabulary. Nothing's going to change. It's already changed.
The toughest transition you've navigated. No, you navigated. So you helped someone navigate.
It's when Navtech was acquired by Nokia, I didn't know what to expect. It's why I do what I do now. The lessons I learned from that were monumental.
So how about in your work? What's one of the toughest things that you've navigated for somebody?
When I see actually the CEO is blind to the issues that are happening, and the rest of the leadership sees it and is afraid to speak up. Those are dangerous. And it's good to have success with that. But I've seen the opposite, where the CEO might be blind, but the next level leadership down is comfortable enough to say, no, what she's talking about, I see it happening, and we need to address it. That's when you have success.
Awesome. Daily practice for building trust in uncertain times.
To me, it's speaking practically and simply. There's the being authentic, but I think unfortunately authentic now has come with so much baggage because people have misinterpreted what that means. But to me, being straightforward and practical and having empathy, understanding where the other person is coming from, that to me is critical in having success.
Okay, awesome. If every exec embrace one human element in deals, which one would it be?
Showing respect for the other side.
I thought that you were going to say that. Last one. Who is a dream collaborator for you to help redefine M&A leadership?
Frankly, dream collaborator, and I feel thankful to have had them. It's clients who recognize the human centric piece of business, right? They absolutely understand the finances, but they recognize that those targets won't be hit if they haven't addressed the humanity of business, right? What does it take to lead your people through change and uncertainty? It's a different toolkit. So for me, dream clients, and I'm thankful to have had them, and largely in Europe, I'm gonna say, who just embrace that and recognize that.
Yeah, I think if someone else was answering that, they would say you.
Thank you. It's been kind. I have had the fortune of people saying, gosh, I wish we'd had you for some previous deals that went sideways. So thank you.
Yeah. So to end today, I've loved in one sentence, what's one leadership shift you hope listeners could make today?
Honestly, and I think what I love about your podcast is you're not alone. I find leaders often think they have to figure out all this stuff by themselves. So whether it's hiring you, Sandra, whether it's bringing me in, or whether it's actually just getting allies within their company to recognize that what they might be worried about, concerned about, others are as well. And the more you open up that dialogue to talk about it, the greater chance you have for solving for that together. And I've seen time and again when you open yourself up by saying, okay, I can't figure this out by myself, but I'm confident with the right collaborator and partner that I can. I really hope that is a key takeaway. Don't do it alone. You've got resources to help you.
And I think everyone needs a board of advisors. I'm fully on board with you there. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. That's a wrap on another episode of the People Profit Podcast. If Jennifer's human-centered approach to M&A inspired you, please, again, like, follow, share, and subscribe. Tag a leader who's facing transitions. Jennifer, can you tell our audience the best ways to connect with you and learn more about Day1 Ready?
I would say definitely hook and link in with me on LinkedIn. It's where I spend the most time. And I love actually reaching out directly. So whether it's via my website or the information that you'll share at the end, for me, people reaching out directly, it's kind of a lost craft. People just directly emailing you. So for me, that's really it. I'm not out on a ton of platforms, but survive and thrive on LinkedIn.
Love it. Love it. All right. So get Day One ready. Jennifer Fondrevay, thank you so much for being on our podcast today. Thank you. I appreciate your time so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And leaders, remember, the strongest deals are built on empowered people. Keep leading with humanity. I'm Sandra Coker. See you next time. That's a wrap on this episode of the People Profit Podcast. If you found a nugget of wisdom or even just a spark of inspiration, share the love, subscribe, leave us a review, and pass the episode along to a colleague who's ready to build a people-first culture. Big thanks to our sponsor, Human Power Solutions, for championing workplace where humans thrive and profits rise. Want to learn how they can energize your team? Head over to hpowersolutions.com to get started. I'm Sandra Coker, reminding you that when you invest in people, you invest in profit. See you next time.